Good evening, one and all. Welcome along. We are in Season 3, Episode 46 of the UK Dallas Cowboys TV podcast. Tonight, joined by Mike and by Paul. How are things going?
Not too shabby.
Yeah, all good. The weather's calming down after the great storm, so it's all calming down again.
Which storm?
Yeah. We know Ireland was getting hammered by it.
See, I live on the East Coast, so I'm closer to you guys, and by the time it got to me, it was like a storm in a teacup. That's what it was like.
But look at this. Wales, Ireland, and Scotland, all three Celtic states involved.
Absolutely. We're absolutely flying, and it's great to see Paul joined us because he dropped right beforehand, and I'm probably tempting fate now, and my internet connection is going to go out.
Well, hey, I'm used to talking to myself, so don't worry.
It's when you start answering yourself back, that's when you need to worry.
I do that too. Don't you worry.
But we are going to talk linebackers tonight. As we said, Tuesday night, we're going to go a little bit more into depth on a selection of prospects in a couple of rounds, maybe in the top 3 rounds where we might get them. But as always, if you have any thoughts, let us know what they are, ask questions, interact with us. Otherwise, as we say, we're always just 3 guys chatting amongst ourselves. And it's great to see DJ Dog joining us, and he's mentioned that it is Combine Week. So
Yeah,
and it is a very deep linebacker group, DJ Dog. You are correct, sir. But before we jump into the linebackers, I mean, obviously, it's Combine Week. Everybody's in Indianapolis. Stephen and Mike McCarthy have already been briefing the press, and it looks like we are going to be losing one of our key contributors, if not 2.
Yeah, and also Lauren made a really good. I know we're kind of talking about the linebackers and coming, but I think we should still kind of discuss about the whole NFL International Series that's just been announced. And Lauren made a really great comment due to the rule set. What they're going to try and specify within the rules is that it should always be an AFC versus NFC team, regards to when you're going over across. So We know that Mexico is now very slim now because it's Arizona.
We don't play them.
And we don't play them next year.
No.
Or this year. So Dallas is out for the question. So that leaves with Jacksonville, and the only two NFC teams that are traveling is the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. So when you kind of line it up that way, and also from our sources and our good friend Mikey Spagnola, which kind of dropped the bomb a little bit on our last show, it's starting to really make sense, guys.
Do both of you have your holiday time saved up for a week in London next year or later in the year?
Question is have you? Because you got a bigger trip to take.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I do.
That's all right then.
I might be doing 3 things. I might be doing a game in Dallas. I might be going to the Tampa Bay game in Munich just for absolute giggles, because I would like to experience that like in a different environment. But also, if Dallas does come to London, that's most definite. I'll be taking the whole week off for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, we got if Dallas come to town. Yeah, there's so much we got to get sorted and organize and plan.
Yes.
It's like we're gonna even try and do some things that haven't been done yet. I think probably biting off more than we can chew, but that is the UK Cowboys way.
Yeah, I think all of our day jobs will be taking a back seat. I mean, I was one of you guys was saying you were watching back the draft show last week, or was it Jamie?
I watched a small amount just to watch the Mickey Spagnola bit because he was coming back.
Yeah,
but Jamie did.
Yeah.
I had the second part on, and I've had the third part on today. Like, and Jesus, thinking back to the amount of work we all did for that show, and it's going to pale in comparison to if the Cowboys are over here later in the year.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like me and Paul on Thursday before Mickey was on, we were just like going through some ideas, and like we're like just like everything was like, yeah, got to do that, yeah, we'll do that, no, we'll do that. Oh, we'll speak to Derek Eagleton about that.
So there is going to be plenty more to come for everybody if that does come off, and positive mental attitude from everybody. It's going to happen,
and we couldn't have timed it better as well. That on Thursday's show, the draft show, we have Mr. NFL UK Jeff Reinbold on the show.
Hey,
so there's a guy to ask.
Yeah, that's going to be someone we'll have to get a live sit down with.
Oh yeah, because and what's really fun is he always loves coming over and talking with us. Like on the draft show, he was like telling a show that he was supposed to be on to wait because he was talking to us, and I found that brilliant.
It was. I think I'm only about 10 minutes later into the third part of the show. That's where I have it paused at the minute. But flipping back, as we said, Stephen has mentioned that it looks like one or both of Tank and Coop are going out the door. What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
It just kind of now justifies us drafting certain other positions, which we never thought we were going to do prior to, like, because we were talking about O-line. It might well be wide receiver again. It might be defensive end. It could be anything now besides running back and quarterback. So,
and safety. We don't draft safety.
So you keep saying, Brian, there will be one time. We won't.
I mean, like the thing is he was non-committal in his comments about Amari Cooper, and but the thing you got to think about is that if you're not bringing Amari Cooper back, then suddenly wide receiver really is. Like everything we've done, like our prospect project shows and the draft shows, they've all gone out the window because it means wide receiver is the only. It's not the only option, but wide receiver is now the biggest option. We're back here again, Just 2 drafts later, going,
Yeah.
we need to take a wide receiver in the first round again.
And this time around, I'm not going to be mad if we do draft a wide receiver, if that's the case.
No.
Because Coop's been phenomenal for us, but if we do kind of lose it, let him go due to the business decision because of the cap rule, then we need to somehow replace him, whether it's going to be a first round pick, second round pick. I mean, there is some really good guys in the later rounds that we could put that could potentially actually rise up to the occasion and might become a star receiver. We don't know, but I mean, there's the whole talk of Sky Moore, which Audrey Fajita did quite a good segment on. I like the look of him in the later rounds, but we just don't know. Like, it's so everything's just went up in the air all of a sudden this week,
Yeah. But here's a crazy one though that I can throw even a bigger spanner in the works for you. Is one of the big name players is absolutely falling down boards. Is Brian's guy that he spoke about, Tyler Lindebon. That guy is literally, he's about to, the way things are going. You can watch on the demographics on a certain site by how scouts are viewing him and how he's being talked about. And you can watch their draft stock, and it's like a line graph, kind of like a stock market.
Yeah,
and at the moment, Lindebon, he's fallen into the late 20s now. So there could very well be a chance that we could be without Amari Cooper. We've talked about offensive line, but at 24, when the Cowboys pick, and here's my question for you: no wide receiver. You've got a small batch of these, if you like, one of the top 3, because really it's the top 3 wide receivers, and then you're into the next, or top 4 if you really want to be pedantic. Then you're into the next category of wide receivers, or the next batch of. But the question is if you've got one of them top 3 wide receivers, and Lindebon is sitting there at 24, now what do you do? Because you're in a quite a kerfuddle there about what to do.
Yeah,
and it could very well happen.
Yeah, I'm also going to throw into the fact that this show is about linebackers, and if the 2 linebackers are there, it makes it even worse because we're very thin at linebacker. If Coop is gone, we have 2 wide receivers and potentially Linderbaum as well. So it's going to be interesting. So DJ Dog's making the point there that Linderbaum is a great center, but he's scheme specific for his own run scheme team. Will value him higher.
It is true.
Yeah.
And it kind of did feed back into some of what we were saying in last week's show on Tuesday when we were talking about the offensive guys. Is this, Kellen is more moving towards a West Coast passing style offense. So taking a big run blocker is not going to suit the scheme they want to play. So it would make sense now that Linderbaum is slipping past us, and we're kind of going, good luck to him,
Yeah, like I said, Brian, even though there's the wide receivers and stuff, but see in terms of the centers and guards, I actually think there's actually quite a good couple of prospects in there that actually would do a decent job. So again, I keep saying this: the draft is a lottery. You will find a big, massive diamond in the rough. You always will. Yeah. And it's going to be the least expected. I mean, no one take the Saints, for example. Maybe we're going off a little bit of a tangent here, but take the Saints. For example. No one expected Alvin Kamara to have the big, massive impact he did with the Saints.
I had him higher on my board.
But I'm just saying. Yeah, just saying. But
it's true. I mean, I think offensive skill guys. It's that kind of. From pick 60 to about pick 100, you can get great guys in there. And as you say, Paul, Kamara, I'm thinking of Cooper Kupp. I'm thinking of DeAndre Hopkins.
Cooper Kupp is one, definitely.
And DeAndre Hopkins. And who's the other guy? Keenan Allen. They were in that 60 to 100 range of picks. And look at what they've done for their teams over the years, So... you don't have to take a first round guy, but you could get production from a late second and third round guy.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have actually seen this yet, but I've just literally got my Twitter feed open, but I don't know if you guys were going to cover it. But a thing about like Mike McCarthy announcing Dak Prescott about his shoulder
with the shoulder surgery. Yeah,
and
very interesting.
And I think, I don't know about you guys, but this is what is annoying me the most: the fact that McCarthy's getting asked about Sean Payton in a press conference.
It's not very professional, is it? I didn't think it's not very a professional way to go.
I think it's so disrespectful, man, in a way as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you may have your opinions about Mike McCarthy, but he's still our head coach right now.
Mm.
And it's.
And to be fair, McCarthy can be quite prickly when he wants to be. You know, I mean, our great friend of the show, Jane Slater, has had manies to run in with Mike McCarthy in the 2 seasons, and you know, like if you get in his bad books, it's not good for you at all.
And he does have a tendency, Mike McCarthy, to just say whatever he's thinking.
Yeah,
even if that's the wrong thing.
Yeah,
true. But unless there's any more news, guys, or anything else that you want to discuss, we're going to jump into these linebackers.
Yeah, just to kind of finish up, I've literally, when I was talking about the international series there, I just want to kind of mention this in case this person's actually watching this right now on Twitter, is he doesn't think Dallas are going to London, the front are going to Mexico. It can't happen because Arizona is the home team and it's the destination of NFC versus an AFC team. So it can't be Dallas. And like our Lauren, part of UK Cowboys, said within our private chat, saying the only 2 teams available for the NFC to go over to play Jacksonville, London, is the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. So it's either one of those 2 teams.
Yeah. So there we go. So, right, we are going to jump into talking about our the linebackers in this draft. As you can see, Mike is quite excited about this. I know he has been extensively scouting linebackers for the last several months. I think the 2 big names that everyone knows and are aware of and are potentially going to be available at pick 24 are Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean. And I have a preference for one over the other.
Come on, then.
But I have my preference is Nakobe Dean.
Okay, good. I'm happy with that.
Because Nakobe Dean is a 3-down linebacker. He is a guy who can drop into coverage. The similarities between him and Devin Lloyd are both of them can play in the box and can run downhill. But Nakobe Dean is a better tackler. He's better able to play in coverage, and Lloyd is only developing that part of his game. So if it's a case at 24, that's your 2 options. I'm taking Nakobe Dean every day.
Yeah. I mean, like, the issue you've got with Devin Lloyd, I mean, we'll start there and we'll work backwards. Like, obviously, the issue you got with Devin Lloyd is the slow processing. And we've had this athletic type guy that has a slow processor before, and we let him go last season, albeit for other reasons. But we've had that play before. The big issue with Dean's development as a player is more down to what happened not last season, the season before, with the Pac-12 because of COVID. And because of that, the Pac-12 decided to shut it down, which is fair enough. But what that means is it's a stunted year of development for him because of that. And I think that plays a role in his development. Now, in terms of Nakobe Dean, you give me a Georgia player, you can't go wrong if you pick any defensive linemen or linebackers over in Georgia. I mean, those guys were just bossing it. That
Yeah.
also can kind of be an issue with Nakobe Dean, is that I know where his ceiling is. Like we know how high he can play at. We know where it is, but I just don't know where his floor is. That's the problem, because he played in that Georgia defense with great defensive linemen, all those great linebackers as well.
Yeah,
it was like we was talking about it before in the season, that front seven was just ginormous. It was crazy. But what that means is you don't get a true representation of where their limitations are, because they've never had to go there.
Yeah, it's true. Just a comment that's come in from DJ Dog, and it is a name that we haven't included for tonight in who we're going to talk about, but it is. I know Mike will have something on this guy. Brandon Smith is an interesting prospect from Penn State. His size and his speed ratio are elite, and they absolutely are. He was a guy who played with Micah, I believe, in 2019, and one of the best duos in the Big Ten at that time, on both sideline to sideline, and had the ability to go downhill.
Yeah, as a cover guy, brilliant for his size as well. The issue I have with Brandon Smith, why I've got him lower, is he did have a major leg injury in 2020, and that is something that needs to be looked at. Luckily, the combine's year, so we'll get to see it. But as a nickel linebacker, with room to develop into something more, and you can't go wrong with a Penn State linebacker. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a guy, because we'll have to circle back to the linebackers, I think, because there's so many of them. And, these guys all play at there's a lot of linebackers that are playing at fast paces. So there's a lot that we need to take out of it. So I definitely think, because there's like other guys on there I want to look at, is Beavers, Clark, Leo Chanel, all of those guys. Circle back to them and we can look at them, because they're guys I definitely think we need to talk about.
And another guy here that DJ Dog brought up was Quay Walker, another one of those Georgia linebackers. He's a huge prospect, and as you say, Mike, it is those guys from Georgia, like Walker, Dean. There's another 2 or 3 I know that are there, and then you have Jordan Davis, Wyatt as well. Like that was
Channing Tindall's the other Georgia linebacker.
Yes, that is the name.
And he's a bit of an unsung hero in that defense. It's not really spoken about much.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be too mad if we even draft one of the guys from Georgia. I would not be mad at all.
Yeah,
Nakobe Dean. If you take him in the first round, so I mean, let's strike it up with Nakobe Dean. And I made some notes on it. And the first one, the most obvious thing, if you just go to YouTube and you type in a Georgia game for this season and you go to find Nakobe Dean, you'll find him right away, because he's the smallest guy on the defense. And that's the trouble. You'll spot him just instantly. He's barely 6 foot tall. He's barely 220 pounds. He's a sleek guy. And he's that type of linebacker where you aren't going to want to put him into the weight room, because if you put him into that weight room and you try and bulk him up, he loses everything that becomes special about him. So that's the problem that you have, because he is, believe it or not, that size, he can rush the passer, which is crazy. But the reason that he can do it is because he's small. He can get skinny to the hole, and when he gets skinny, he can get through, and you'll see him break through, and he'll corner the edge too. But more than anything, he is this pure off-ball linebacker. That is what you're getting with him. We have that with Jabril Cox already, which is the problem. I like Nakobe Dean. The problem is we already have it. The problem that you've also got is Nakobe Dean, I would say, is a better player than Jabril Cox. I know that's blasphemous to say, but he's got this bit of a Sean Lee mentality, and a lot of these linebackers we're talking about do. The FBI line. There's a blast from the past. FBI linebacker, so they're able to diagnose the play on the field and be almost like a coach on the field. And Nakobe Dean is the guy that does that. But the issue is with every time if you're drafting, you've got to understand that although he can diagnose the play, he's fast, he's quick, he's nimble. Like, put it this way: Nakobe Dean, one of the best plays I saw in college last year was Nakobe Dean's, and he was actually playing really pretty much as a cornerback. The running back gets the ball and he's flowing the opposite direction from Nakobe Dean. And Nakobe Dean is that quick to diagnose the play and get across. He actually comes behind the line of scrimmage on the play and takes the running back down for a tackle for the loss. That's how crazy of a play. And you watch it and you're thinking, how in the hell did that just happen? Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to watch. But the issue that you got is he cannot overcome his size. You can't make him taller, and you can't make him bigger. And depending, and what is good is he does fit the Dan Quinn scheme. Dan Quinn schemes with linebackers, it's about speed. And we said this last year when he came in, that it's about the fast linebackers. He wants guys quick. Those guys need to be quick behind the line. That's how he likes them, and he fits that. I mean, like, if I try and there is a note on him that he came off a shoulder injury as well. So that's something that needs to be looked at. And I'm sure we'll get information about that during the combine. But he just, the other issue you got is if he gets blocked, because he just doesn't have the strength to blow off fullbacks, shed blocks. He won't even take on blocks because he just can't do it. It's just not part of his game. And as I say, you know, the power run game against him, you'll watch him he's going backwards. That's the issues. That's your limitations with Dean. But apart from that, diagnosing the play, attacking the edge, no anticipation, no hesitation. Although, like we're saying that he will get sealed in on blocks, he will still, if he needs to, he will still get his nose in it and punch a guy in the mouth, which is what we want. Like, although it's not great, but in terms of what that will do for the rest of your linebacker core and the defensive line, sometimes that's helpful. You know, just to take on a guy is sometimes enough to free up the rest of what everybody else is trying to do. But you're just not going to get much more than that. And his straight line speed as well is a big one, and his play speed, because like a lot of people will talk about this week with the combine, they'll talk about the testing and everything else. That's all well and good, but when you put the pads and the helmet on, how fast you play now, and that's what's more important. And Nakobe Dean has that speed play.
See, I don't know about you guys. This is the one thing I do not like about the combine. It's like, you can run a 4.40 or whatever not, but what difference does it make when you don't have a helmet and lid on? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. It's not a true. It's not a true representation of how you play the game. Even for the wide receiver skills, quarterback skills, you can throw a ball no problem without the shoulder pads restricting you. Yeah, for sure. Like, it kind of goes down to all the positions. Like, so.
Here's my other trouble as well, and although I said this last year about Micah Parsons, and look how wrong I was about that, but the biggest issue I have with Nakobe Dean is, and he truly is, right? You've got to understand, he really is an off-ball linebacker, right? And I know I said that about Micah Parsons last year, and do I want to take that there? I was wrong about that, but Nakobe Dean really, I mean, just go and watch it and you will agree with me. He is a pure off-ball linebacker. Do I really want to take a pure off-ball linebacker with my first-round pick? That, to me, is very, very rich.
Like, it's hard to fathom doing that. As you say, like, Micah Parsons is not, as you say, he's more of an off-ball linebacker. And as we saw during the season, he played off the edge as well at times. So do we really want to take a second off-ball linebacker in the first round for the second season? You know, is that going to be what we need? Because I know I can see there that DJ Dog said it, and we are going to talk about one of these guys, is Do we not need a middle linebacker? He's mentioned Leo Chanel. I know Mike, you had a graphic up about Leo earlier in the week, and then Kristen Harris. And Kristen Harris, we are going to talk about it in a couple of minutes' time. So Paul, do you think it's too much to take, as Mike is saying, a second off-ball linebacker in the first round for 2 years?
Yeah, I would say so. I would rather have someone who's more down in the middle.
Yeah.
Like someone that can actually blitz more down the middle, and also it can actually play that coverage as well. And let Parsons do what he does off the ball as well. So I mean,
and if you then play it out, does that not then play into Devin Lloyd's strengths? Because he is more of that middle linebacker, downhill tackler.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the coverage skills yet. They have been developing in the last season or so. Yeah. But is it going to be there for him at the NFL level, or is it going to be exposed?
I think Lloyd will be one of those ones. It would be worth the risk, I think, personally.
Mm-hmm.
If all the linebackers, I think that if that was the guy that we were to draft in the first round, sorry, Arnie, walking past it would have been Devin Lloyd, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, like, go on. Sorry. Go on, carry on.
But in terms of like going into the second round, like we kind of briefly spoke about Leo Chanel and Muma and all that. Like, I'm pretty sure those guys will definitely fit the bill as well. But if you're talking about in the first round, like Lloyd Stroud has some good talent, man, and he can really make a big stump in the middle of the field for sure. But like you said there, Brian, like I don't know, I haven't watched that much of him in terms of the coverage, but I've just watched him how he attacks the offensive line, and that's something that we would love to have in the middle of the field rather than coming from the edge. Like it just kind of helps. It helps our interior defensive tackles as well. Like, because when you think about it, if you've got a hard-nosed linebacker coming down, and that's what you're thinking about, where does that leave our defensive tackles? It kind of leaves opportunities for them to kind of break away.
Yeah.
Like hitting through the gaps. So there's that.
Yeah. There is. Go on, Mike.
I was just going to say, with Devin Lloyd, the first thing you got to know with Devin Lloyd, and I only found this out last week, is because there was something in the back of my mind where I heard it during the season, and it's Devin Lloyd. He is, in fact, an ex-wide receiver. So in terms of, we know what that's like with what we've got as a cornerback here, if you've played wide receiver in terms of defending the pass. And with Devin Lloyd, he is almost prototypical in what the future in the NFL with linebackers are going to look like. It's going to look like this. It's going to look like Devin Lloyd, the body type. He can play all three linebacker spots, playing all three parts of the game. So in run defense, pass defense, blitzing, he's got all of that. He can do it off the edge and from the inside.
Yeah.
And what you see is it's a good use of hands. He gets them where he needs to be in blocking and in tackling. Like I say, the issue you have is he is a slow processor. It takes him time because you can see it. As I say, because of what happened during the COVID year, in the Pac-12 where they shut the conference down because of it. Obviously, there's a year of less development with him. He is still developing, though, and you've seen it this year, and you could see it progressively through each quarter of the season. As it was going through, you could see he was starting to build things up there. And like I say, he is part of that new wave of players. And like some of the other things, because I was trying to find some of the bits and pieces out. Here's a crazy one. Is against Stanford, 10 tackles for a loss on 40 snaps.
Yeah.
I mean,
1 and
like
4.
It's not that bad. And he can blitz. He can blitz as well.
Yeah.
And just go through a few of the other things that he was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. He goes to the Senior Bowl, does everything that he needs to do there. And then just like, you go through it and everything works. The only problem I have with Lloyd is it's his tackling style. It's coachable. And I think this is more of another thing, this development, that he's this sort of he likes to dive on the guy and drag him down.
Yeah.
Which obviously leads to issues that he will rub off certain players if they're big enough. And you'll see that he has a lot of missed tackles. His missed tackle rate is like quite high in terms of what goes on. And I just said now that he only, the 40 snaps with Stanford, that's very, very typical of a Devin Lloyd game because he wears down very, very quickly. Now, you watch him from the first to the third quarter, and they're almost two completely different players that he wears down quick so that you see either these low effort reps coming in towards the end of the game or he's got to come off. Yeah.
And it ties into the fact that the point that's being made by a lot of people is he's not a true 3-down linebacker. And given our lack of depth, is that something we can risk taking? Is that we don't have a first-round pick who can be on the field for all 3 downs?
I can see where they're going. And because I think a lot of it is, again, due to that effort part. And I think it's just that he's so aggressive in every snap that wears him down quick. And that's what happens. And although, we're saying that he is a good athlete, because he is a good athlete. But with him, if you go across, and you'll probably see it this week, nothing will stand out to you. Nothing will pop and be like, whoa. With everything, you're looking at it and you go, okay. And then you'll do that and you'll go, all right, okay. But there's nothing where you go, whew, yeah. You don't look at it like, that's a first round linebacker. That is exactly what you'd expect. You just look at it and go, all right, okay. And it's not an issue because the testing isn't everything, like Paul was saying.
Yeah.
Is what you see on the tape is what you want to be aiming for. But it's just like it's a more of an indicator of what's below the surface, There aren't that many holes in his game, and that's a big thing. And he is an all-round linebacker, as we said. The biggest issue for me is his tackling. That is going to be the sticking point.
That was one thing I had noted down from when I viewed him, and I hate making the comparison at times because they're two different sports. But for us here in the UK and Ireland, rugby union is one of our biggest sports, and we're so used to guys knocking guys backwards and absolutely driving them backwards. When we see a guy who's kind of slipping off a tackle, you're going, tackle technique is not good. And it's something you either have or you don't have. You're not going to learn at 22 how to tackle. You have to have it or you don't have it. And that's the concern for me is that, as we said about Nakobe Dean, he can get blocked up. He can't shed blocks. And for Devin Lloyd, for me, his technique is not good enough and it's not going to translate enough at the NFL level.
No, the thing is it's all about risk averse with the round 1 and round 2, really. Yeah. And there aren't that many risks with Lloyd. A lot of it is. And here's the crazy part: is we talk about his pure athleticism. That's something you can build in the gym. You talk about the processing speed. That's something that you can build in, watching tape with NFL coaches. What happens when those two converge? When those 2 points meet, which will happen, and that will be his ceiling, and that will happen while he's in the NFL. And once those 2 points converge, and you say you're going to have a very special linebacker, and that's the thing with Lloyd is you're more of how you're projecting him to become, because there's a lot of tools and traits, and everything is lining up nicely with him to get there, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, if I flip it to you, and I think from what we're kind of saying is Dean has the higher floor. Lloyd potentially has the higher ceiling. So if we're putting you into Jerry Jones's yacht, we're giving you all the trappings, and you have to pick one of those two guys, what way would you lean?
Definitely not on the outside. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry, my mind just kind of went blank there. So, Kobe Dean and Devin Lloyd. I'm just trying to remember. Devin Lloyd is the one that's more central.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be Devin Lloyd.
Okay.
Yeah, just despite him being only potentially a 2-down player.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fair
there's
enough.
no wrong answer. There is no wrong answer.
No.
I'm like, I like both. I just think in the Dan Quinn system, the Kobe Dean would fit better. But
Yeah.
the issue we got is he's the off-ball linebacker.
If you were to turn around and said to me, if Dean is that it can be flexible and play the middle, then I would be more swaying over to Dean. Then, if that's the case,
Yeah.
But I need to know more about him. Like, I'm only kind of doing it based on very limited footage I've seen of him so far. So this is where I really need to get up to scratch with all the potential prospects going into the draft.
But both linebackers are starting linebackers in the NFL.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They both are. So that's why there's no wrong answer to it.
And they're day one starters. And that's that is what this team is going to need at linebacker is a day one starter. But if we look a little bit further down the line, and like DJ Dog, thank you as always. We can see your comments flying in, and you're kind of giving us beautiful segues into different linebackers that we do want to talk about.
I know it's like getting you on the show, DJ Dog.
Yeah.
Two guys that are potentially going to be available to us in the second round are Kristen Harris, who is your badass Mike middle linebacker. He is downhill. He is a trucker. He will absolutely knock you on your ass. Yeah. And then there is a guy who is flying up draft boards. And before we jumped on the air, I was saying this to Mike, that this guy seems to me to be this year's Leighton Van Der Esch, in that he's going to fly up the boards. His testing this week is going to be off the charts, and he's going to keep going. This is a guy who could potentially end up in the first round. That's Chad Muma out of Wyoming.
Yeah. Which one do you want to go for first?
I'll be honest. Every time I've done a mock draft, Chad Muma is always the one that pops up in my second round.
You will not go wrong. You will not go wrong.
Let's talk about Muma, because Mike, I know we talked about this over the weekend. Is that you don't think Kristen Harris is a fit for Dan Quinn's scheme or the Cowboys? So look, let's talk about Chad Muma, because he might be a first round pick.
He the way. So we was talking about draft stock a moment ago.
Yeah.
Tyler Lindebon, how he's playing. Muma is flying up, and there are a number of reasons for that. A lot of it is let's start from the top, is what the problems were with Chad Muma. And the first one that people talk about is he plays in the Mountain West, right? So that was the first problem. So people are talking about, as you know, over in the Mount, there's not great offensive linemen. Quarterbacks will hold on to the ball too long, waiting for things to develop. It's a lot of play action, a lot of trying to create these mismatches, which meant that Chad Muma could just eat. The style of the way he plays, and they go, oh yeah, and he leads all of college last season, FBS, college, the whole lot, leads the country in tackles.
So here's my question to you, mate. Why is he regarded as a second round prospect if that's the case?
Because of this, that he does everything that he did for an entire season, top in the charts on literally, especially in run defense, absolutely insane. So then they go, okay, what we'll do then is competition levels questionable. Let's see what you like in the Senior Bowl. and he just blows it out the water. He's now up against the top prospects of the country, and he's maybe the best player at the Senior Bowl. He just does not skip. He didn't skip a beat playing against the top. So then all of a sudden it goes, oh, okay, you were a man amongst boys. Once we put you against men, you were the top dog.
Kind of sounds like the whole scenario. What was the guard that got drafted by the Buccaneers? Alex Kappa.
Kappa,
absolutely decimated smaller teams. And in the Senior Bowl, we really stood out, and he ended up getting drafted as a third round or something like that. So I think it's that same similar scenario with Chad Rimmer right now.
Yeah. And he literally is. He gets all the accolades, all the awards over there, and what it is we was talking about smart player, FBI linebacker. This is Muma. Yeah. There's no wasted effort on the field. If you just go and watch it, and one of the comments I always make about linebackers: go slow before you know. Is the big one with linebackers.
Yeah.
It's a big one that you see. So it's about shuffling your feet, staying square to the line. Once you get your key and you read, go make that play. And Chad Muma does that to a T perfectly. He is, we talked about the Sean Lee. This is exactly this guy because he has a natural instinct. And we're speaking about the Mountain West, about, a lot of play fakes, a lot of play action. He never bites on them. He goes, oh, that's what you're trying to sell to me? I'm not buying. And where all the other players on the defense are all biting and flowing, you're watching Muma just going straight at it, attacking the guy, going straight in. And he is a very powerful hitter. Wraps up the tackler.
Yeah.
Very little in terms of missed tackles. The complete opposite, if you like, in terms of Devin Lloyd. The tackle technique. Everything technique-wise is great. And the issue that you have with Muma that a lot of people will talk about is that he's not a great athlete, because he's not, and he doesn't have natural physical gifts. What he does is everything is natural, and it's all technique. Is what he's done is everything's pure technique. And as I say, you watch, like basically every step that he takes has a purpose. Every movement, every time he moves, and you watch it, it's done for a reason. And against run defense, this guy, you never need to take him off, is a big thing. He's there for all three downs because he will do it. He's got a natural instinct for getting to the quarterback, a natural instinct to finding running backs, because you'll watch him work through the trash when both lines are at the mesh point, and yet you're seeing Muma somehow, whether he's coming around the edge or whether he's shedding or he's coming off a block to make a tackle to the running back. And you're watching it thinking, well, how on earth? And it's just because he's just able to do it. He's explosive, and he will just do it from the snap. It is a very, very natural talent. And the big one I like as well that he does is that from the moment the whistle goes to the moment the whistle stops, he is continuing to hustle on every play. He never stops. That motor is always going.
Yeah. The one knock on him, as you said, Mike, look, he's a tackling machine, and he will hit the line. The one knock on him is that in coverage and in space, he has missed tackles, and he does miss tackles.
Yeah.
He's
not a quick twitch athlete.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the agility.
Yeah. And it also seems to be a case of, again, he's an off-ball linebacker. So, again, are we kind of going, is that a bit too high to be taking him in the second round? Or do we actually, and as we have said, there's potentially he's a first-round pick, is that, again, it's an off-ball linebacker, and you're kind of going, what we need really is a Mike, and that's where he'd need to play.
I wouldn't really call him an off-ball linebacker, though. I would say he's an all-three linebacker.
Yeah,
he will be able to play all three positions. The the biggest problem for him are faster players, if you like. So faster, especially like the F-type tight ends that have that speed and agility to break away. They will break away from him. And when you look at him, his size is deceptive. That you look at him and you think, surely a guy of his size, when you're watching him on tape, you go, a guy of his size should be able to change direction and move faster more. But he's actually, when I first saw it, I was a bit shocked that he's nearly 6'4" and 245 pounds.
Yeah. And
when you watch it, you think, nah, he's not that big. And then you see it and you go, right, well, okay then. And that kind of then takes some of your issues away. It will be interesting to see what his testing is like.
Yeah.
He can get taken down very easily in some situations in blocks because of like a bit of a physicality sort of thing. But I think that's mainly down to the Mountain West and the sort of colleges you're playing at there. The weight rooms aren't going to be as good as the Power Fives. But there's a lot there to like.
Yeah. That is true. Paul, is that the sound of a player that we could interest you in?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, like I'm at that stage now. I'm just really want to fill the voids of players that we're missing out. Like I said, like I said before we even went live, I feel as though right now my knowledge of these guys are very little right now, but I will get more up to speed of growing up as the draft comes through and through the combine and that as well. But I mean, I definitely, if one thing I will say from a general point of view, we will draft a linebacker at some point in this draft.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
Yeah.
Like
I still think the linebacker that Mike is most excited about is still to come because he's been talking about this guy for a couple of months. I'm on the train with Mike as well. But Mike, Kristen Harris, you've said you don't think he's a fit for us. So I'm going to throw the floor over to you on this one and make the case for not drafting him.
Basically, here we go then. Go watch his game. And you will see he is exactly Jalen Smith, a guy we got rid of. Exactly. It is exactly him. And I'm not saying Jalen Smith is a bad player. And Jalen Smith in college, insane. Watch him in Notre Dame. Like, the guy was the perfect linebacker. Everything about him. But the trouble is, and this is what I'm saying, why it's not a fit, is that we were willing to pay a lot of dead cap to Jalen Smith for when we got rid of him. And that is what you get with Kristen Harris. Exactly that. The pre-injury Jalen Smith, if you like. But he's probably not as good. I would say now, Kristen Harris is not as good of a prospect as Jalen Smith was coming out of college. Jalen Smith coming out of college was a top 5 prospect, pre-injury. Gets the injury, he's a second-round guy. Kristen Harris is not as good as Jalen Smith, but when you watch him, that's what he is. And as soon as you say that, and you go, I don't think he's a good fit for Dallas because of that, you can go, okay, watch the tape, and you will go, yeah, that's Jalen Smith.
Yeah. I pretty much agree with you on that. And I mean, it's rare that we agree so much on prospects. Generally, Mike and I fight like cats and dogs in our group chat about different prospects, and we're probing each other, and one of us is getting wound up. But again, I do agree. But look, if we make the case for drafting Kristen Harris, like he's a will linebacker who can match up with tight ends, who can match up with running backs coming out of the backfield. So he does have some redeeming traits. We're not saying he's trash in any way. He's a very good linebacker. But it's, as Mike has made the case, it's a guy that we're paying dead captive for 2022. So why would you draft him again?
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Is just I just think it's a bad, and that's why I said to you, I'm not saying Kristen Harris is bad. I just think it's a bad fit for Dallas because and if they do draft him, I'm not going to be sad about it.
No,
because he is a good player. I just worry about the fit, and also that the type of linebacker he is, you will have similar type guys to Kristen Harris in a lot of ways and style of play and fit and mold that you can get later on in the draft.
Yeah. And look, if we do flip it over to the guy, as I say, this is the guy I think that we're both most excited about. This is a guy who is potentially going to slip to a third round grade. I don't know why, but Jojo Dolmen, linebacker out of Nebraska, out of the Big Ten.
I really like him.
I knew you were going to say that.
Please.
I knew you were going to say that guy.
He is like one of my favorite. Like we talk about pet cats, he's pet cat. But I just wanted to say though a very quick one. Going back to Kristen Harris, the one thing I was going to say is there is a plus and a minus in terms of other things with him. Is one, he's an Alabama linebacker. You can't go wrong there. He's playing at the very top. The only thing I will say is when you look at his natural instincts that he plays with and the amount of snaps that he's taken at Alabama, I would have expected by now, and this is why I'm saying he's very Jalen Smith-esque, is that I would have expected his development for instincts and natural feel of playing to be further along, and it's not. So I just wonder is that his limitation to understanding defense? Because Jalen Smith, he's moving around, he's running around a lot in the backfield. There's a lot of movement back there, and he's guessing where he's supposed to be rather than reading keys. That's Kristen Harris. Sorry, I just wanted to make that note.
Absolutely. But look, talk about Jojo Dolmen.
Jojo, yes. I mean, do you want to go first or shall I?
No, I'll give you the honor because if I start talking about Jojo Dolmen, I'm going to drool because he is such a sure thing. I'll be honest and say this: if he's there in the second round and we haven't drafted a linebacker in the first, I would have no problem pulling the trigger on this guy because he can do it all. He did it all in the Big Ten West, which is a very tough, very physical division. He's a modern type of linebacker. He can play coverage. He can also take tight ends. He can take running backs out of the backfield as well. He's vocal. He can read the play. He takes his keys well. This is a guy who, for me, has the potential to be a Sean Lee.
I mean, look, put it this way. This is where he played in 2021. He played as the Mike, the Will, the Sam, the nickel, safety, slot, and as a wide corner for 3 snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, that's versatility right there. And I mean, when he was drafted from high school, he's drafted as a safety. So he's a guy that has come in and then developed on from that. His completion percentage that he allows is like down to the floor. He's got like a 60 quarterback passer rating against him, which is phenomenal as well. Has interceptions. He is the one thing I will say that the issues with him is he is a super senior. So he's going to be like coming up to 20. I think he'd be 25 when he comes into the league, getting into 26 once the season gets on. Because of obviously the rules on eligibility and being able to have the extra year. And one of the issues is that he also redshirted due to injuries. So he does have a bit of a laundry list of history. So in 2017, he was out. I think that was it a leg or a knee? It was the lower body. 2018, he's out with a shoulder. 2021, he's out with a hand. So he does have a history of injuries, which is a knock against him. Yeah. And again, going back to what we were saying, although I love Jojo Dolmen. I don't think it'll be a guy the Cowboys draft. And it does sound like a sad thing to say that I'm bursting everyone's bubble when we're talking about him. There is a chance that they do take him. If they take him, because he is a Mr. Jabril Cox. But he's a Jabril Cox that can tackle probably slightly better than Jabril Cox. The only reason that I say they won't is because they have Jabril Cox, which is why they won't draft him. But if they do, that tells you about how they feel about Jabril Cox's injury. Yeah. That's a big one. But, he does have length. I think he's going to be one of these guys that's going to test really, really bad in the combine, which is weird. Yeah. That's just how I think that he has on-field athletic ability, but I think the natural testing is going to look confusing to people. But he is definitely, like you say, he is the future of what the NFL is becoming with linebackers, that hybrid linebacker safety type guy. Issues are obviously with that is you don't become dominant in run defense. You don't become dominant in terms of block shedding or taking on blocks. Stronger backs, especially, and you do see this actually with Dolmen, is the stronger backs will push him backwards. They will roll him over. And he just lacks bulk in terms of that. And like I say, the testing will look weird because of his change of direction skills. So it's going to look really, really odd. But in terms of keeping up with the speedier tight ends, the speedier running backs, and you watch him take on post routes, wheel routes, forget it, screens, the guy's all over them. He will kill them. And even in my comp, I've put it down on you. My comp for him is Jabril Cox.
Yeah.
And,
I would agree.
Go on, sorry.
No, I would agree with you on that because I'm just looking at this comment. Sorry, from DJ Dog. Sounds like he'll be a steal on day 3. If he's there on day 3, I will be stunned. This guy will be gone middle of round 3, I think. Wait
1 minute. I'll tell you now because I know his draft stock is falling. Right now, draft stock is around. He's just inside the top 100 picks, so it is falling. And I would imagine a lot of that is going to be down to his natural size. Like going through it, 6 foot, 230 pounds. So he is light. He is small. With the injury history, is my suspicion onto why his draft stock is falling. So it is quite a lengthy history of it. But like I say, like what will be interesting will be his measurements. You're going to see big hands, long wingspan, big arms, long arm reach. You will see that. And, he'd be the sort of guy as well that will blow the IQ test. He will just blow it out of water, and when they put him on the whiteboard and get him to explain plays, he will be snappy with it. He'll have it because he is the vocal leader on that. On the Cornhuskers defense. You see him. He's the vocal leader of it. He is the guy talking about it. And he has good instincts, good reactionary skills, will find the ball wherever it's at. So he is there with it, but you've got to understand, again, the limitations of what you get with him and what the Cowboys already have with Jabril Cox.
Yeah. So if we look at the final guy that we're going to look at tonight, and just one from DJ Dog, is the medicals will determine a lot. Absolutely, they will. And those measurements.
That's the big one.
This time next week, we will all be reorganizing our boards a little bit. And that will just be based off measurement. But the one thing we always try and say is don't forget to trust the tape. But we're going to talk about a linebacker who went to an absolute trash school. Again, he's someone you should be able to pick up in the 3rd round. He is a 4-3 will linebacker. It's Brian Asamoah.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, take it away because I don't want to talk about someone from a trash school.
No, I mean, like this guy, right? The first thing, and what was funny is what made him stand out to me, and this is a big one when you're watching tape with guys, is I would be watching other players, so I might be watching a running back or a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, and every time there is a guy popping up, and I'm going, Jesus Christ, and all of a sudden it's like, hold on a minute, this guy again. So then all of a sudden you stop watching the guy you're watching and you're watching the opposite side, watching the other guy instead of. And that's what happened with me with Brian Asamoah. That soon, and when that happens, you've got to make note that when you're watching the wrong guy, you know that there's something going on there. And the best way to describe in one word when you watch Brian Asamoah's tape is blur. But he literally is blurring the tape. He's just fat. A lot of these linebackers, mind you, that we've talked about are like that they're these blurs. But you see that. You definitely see that with Brian Asamoah. You know, he looks small as well on tape, like really, really small. Again, that smaller type guy. But it doesn't seem to affect any particular part of his tape. And the best way then I can describe what he does in Oklahoma is he's a jack of all trades but master of none. He really does fit that perfectly. And bear in mind what you got to know. There was last year the Chargers took a linebacker in the first round. Man,
Kenneth Murray.
I get it. There you go. And
he's also from a trash school.
No, well, this is my point. This is my point, right? That Kenneth Murray, first round draft pick, he was taken in the late 20s, I believe, by the Chargers last year.
28, 29,
something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Brian Asamoah benched Kenneth Murray. They chose to have this guy over Kenneth Murray because of how much of a better player, or maybe not smart. Okay, but let's go there. I'm going to put my foot in the ground on that one and say that he was in some ways a better player than what you were getting. I know, but he's rangy, and that's what it is that he is a rangy guy. You will watch plays where the running back gets out into open field, and you're looking at it. He's got green grass ahead of him, and even a running back is thinking this, and he's going, "Here we go. I'm off to the races." And like a shot like that, literally, he won't even be on the screen. You're watching the screen, and the camera's following the running back, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's this running back that's just come in and tackled him, and it's a 2-yard gain. And you're watching it going, well, no, normally that guy's running for a first down here. But it's not, because all of a sudden this guy has just covered so much space in such a short amount of time. And he's very smooth in his transition from going from stop to start to explosive. And he will get to that playmaker extremely fast. He is a will linebacker. That was one thing I will say when I watched it, that if you try and play him in the Mike or you try and play him in the Sam, it just doesn't look right. Everything about it looks wrong.
I fully agree. Like that for me he's a will. He needs to be able to flow as you described there in that play. He needs to be able to flow to the ball, take that time. Like he's a really great communicator and played the Mike at Oklahoma, but he's not a proper Mike linebacker. He needs to have that chance to diagnose and then flow to where the play is going. He can diagnose it, but you know, he is a good player, even if he went to a trash school. I mean, he didn't go to Texas A&M, but you know,
all right.
But go ahead again.
And I mean, like the only things that I was going to say is like at first, and why Kenneth Murray came about was that because of how the Oklahoma defense is in the Big 12, they had to make it complicated because of the talent levels that they were getting. They put a lot of stock on their offense, so they made their defense quite complicated. So what you had from Asamoah for the first part of his career is he struggled because he couldn't understand what they were trying to get him to do. But once he got it, That's what you were seeing then. And you were seeing, especially last season, you saw him just doing everything naturally, doing everything that he was supposed to do. And it was good. It was crazy to watch. There was a lot to be taken away from it. And he was the leader. Again, this is a guy that became the leader of that. He was the leader of the Oklahoma defense last year, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Now, I although I said he is a will linebacker, could you play him at Mike? I think the size limit.
In a pinch, you could, but he's not a Mike linebacker.
I just worry about the size. I think he could do it. I think because he has the instincts and he has the explosive power, that could help him play in the Mike position, I think. And that is in spite of his lack of size, if you like,
Yeah.
But, the big one as well is why I worry about, and people will say, well, he's all of this. Why is he not a first round? So the biggest issue is he avoids blocks, plain and simple, because of his size, because of the way it worked in the Oklahoma defense. He will avoid blocks, and even when he comes to blitzing the quarterback and trying to get the sack, he'll work around blocks. He will work around to get to the quarterback. So it does mean he can do it. And DJ Dog says Asamoah it can rush the quarterback. You do see him get to the quarterback. You do see him get the tackles for the loss.
Yeah.
But that is because he's managed to get around, or because a lot of what the other people have done have managed to allow him to get to a straight line. Like you do see with Asamoah, a lot of this is some of the sacks that you get, he's gone literally in a straight line untouched. Because of the way the Oklahoma defense and the front line was working. But, he does have the short area quickness to be able to do it, so he can get beyond the protection of the running back, because he's got that quick burst to get around them. And he does have good awareness and can recognize routes in man coverage, which is all important.
Yeah. Like, for me, what I struggled with Asamoah was, and obviously, look, everybody knows I'm a Texas fan, was in the Red River rivalry game.
Are you really?
But in that Red River rivalry game, he seemed to be a non-factor. And look, it's not as if the Texas offensive line was the Great Wall of Dallas. They were absolutely torn asunder by several teams last season. And Asamoah didn't seem to have an impact in that game. And that's disappointing. That would be a knock for me, is that why wasn't he a factor in that game? Now, look, maybe I was too much taken up in the game and need to go back and look at it with a cold set of eyes, knowing the result and knowing and looking for, as we say, for number 11. But, Paul, the question I'm going to ask you, right? We've gone through those 6 guys tonight. If the potential was there, would you double dip at linebacker, knowing that you've Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox there?
Absolutely. Because you can never ever count out if one of them might go down again.
Linebacker is a good place for that to happen.
And so I do think we will get a linebacker in the first 3. Within the first 3 rounds, at least one.
Yeah.
But I think we will make another linebacker acquisition in the later rounds as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where my head. This is what I'm kind of visualizing what Steven and Jerry kind of have in our mind right now, just in Jerry world right now, because God knows what we're going to do in that first round now. After, honestly, because it might not even be linebacker. It might be wide receiver. It might be defensive end. It might be nose tackle. It might be God knows what. It might, for all we know, it might even be a bloody kicker.
And I mean, like the things you've got to look at is like me and you, Paul, when we were speaking to Mickey Spagnola on Thursday about the linebacker call, is that break it down. Who have you got? So okay, you've got 2 restricted free agents that. Really, one played a lot of time on special teams. The other one is in and out. So you got Jabril Cox, which we've got question marks over. We don't know
because he's
what
coming back
is.
from a serious injury as well.
So we don't know what we're getting back from him, and he's that athletic off-ball linebacker. So really, if you're talking ACL, how's that affected now his game, which is a point that people aren't making,
especially when it comes to lateral speed,
change of direction, top line speed.
Top line speed, lateral speed, and that's the big one, especially if you're off ball, especially if you're trying to move alongside
from one to the next.
Yeah,
your transitions are going to be slower. So what are you getting back now from Jabril Cox? So then that leaves you with LVE. I think he comes back. So there's your thumper role. But then you've got Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons, you want to leave as that roaming guy that you want to be moving about, not really pinned down to a certain position. And by the way things are going, if they don't bring back Randy Gregory and they sell off
Marcus Lawrence,
you're going to have to put Micah Parsons at defensive end. So who have you got playing linebacker? No one. Literally no one.
So it does open up the potential that there will be a double dip
I think so.
At linebacker. And look, we've covered guys that we think will be in the first, second, third round, but there are other guys that are going to be available later on in the draft. And as Mike said, we might come back to this in another show. Some of those other guys, because I think of all of those guys tonight, they were either Mike or Will linebackers. We haven't discussed a Sam linebacker at all. And you need one of those too.
Yeah, I mean, you could put Devin Lloyd as a Sam. It would work. Kristen Harris, you probably. I mean, I don't think I don't like that. I think I prefer Kristen Harris as the Will or the Mike.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it bluntly. Best player available. That's it.
For me,
it really is this year. This year, I think this year truly a proper get the best players available on the board. Because we're now in that situation now. Linebacker is a big need. There's no doubt about that. But we do need to think about can we get a more stud at that position, which we do need, and maybe get a guy like your Chad Muma or Asim Moore in the second round. Like that's the questions I'm thinking here. It's like, who's going to be available when we reach the number 24, or even where we may even trade? Oh, where we trade, but we haven't talked about that yet. So
I tell you what, as well, one thing people aren't talking about, which is going to play a massive role in what the Cowboys do with the first round pick, is you've got to think there are this year there are, of the 32 picks in the first round before the Cowboys pick, 6 of those go to NFC East teams.
I know.
Yeah.
And how many of them go to the Eagles? Is it 3 of them?
3 to the Eagles, 2 to the Giants, 1 to the Commanders.
The football team.
So to the Commanders.
I'm not calling them that.
They all 3 of those teams are making those picks before the Cowboys.
Sorry.
That is going to play a part in what the Cowboys do at 24.
I'm sorry. Every time I think of the Commanders, I just think of John Cleese from Monty Python just doing a march.
The silly walk.
Like, I don't know why that just came out of my head, but that's what I think of now. And I could go on a whole episode bashing the whole marketing team.
Like, if I just, before we do get out of here, I'll just throw out a quick question to you. You've said, Mike, six picks in the NFC East. I think the Giants will make their 2 picks. I think the Commanders will make their pick, and I think the Eagles, I'm not sure they're going to pick with all 3. And I'm not sure they're going to make 2 picks either. I think there's the potential they'll be in the quarterback market.
Yeah, that'll be the place that they go if they do.
And they have the picks to move around. But do you think it's going to be a case of this year that they're going to try and make a pick that they know the Cowboys will want.
Most likely. They'll probably want to trade down to a part where we're in range of getting a player and end up drafting them. Like, say for example, I think the Eagles right now, they're in need of O-line as well. It would not surprise me if they went and got the guard from Texas A&M. It would not surprise me. But here's another thing, Brian, and I don't think we actually kind of mentioned this with regards to the Eagles, and I think this is somewhat relatable what you were just saying there. It's like, remember, they've still got a big, massive cap. I'm pretty sure. So it wouldn't surprise me if they'll trade down just to kind of bring them down the cap. I know it won't be much, but they could probably take a less hit on their cap, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jojo made a really good point as well. They could even land Lindebon as well. So
yeah.
I mean, I think the Eagles, what they do is they're gonna sell. But then again, right, it all depends. If they don't believe in Hurts, they're going to, because really,
who are they going to draft?
I think they're going to trade.
They'll trade their picks for a quarterback, but that only depends if they feel Hurts isn't going to develop, because Hurts isn't a bad quarterback. He just needs to develop his passing a bit more. If they think he's going to develop, but then you've got a dual threat quarterback if he does. If they feel that really what they were getting last season is the most that he's going to go, this is where his ceiling's going to get, because, give it 3 years to develop is what I always say. But if they feel that that's what they're going to do, because they're not going to get 3 first-round draft picks again. So they need to really decide what they're going to do with those picks, make that decision and go with it. And they're going to have to stick by that. If they feel that Hurts isn't going to develop beyond, they need to go and sell that off for a quarterback. One of the ones I know that's been thrown around is Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that's exactly who I'm thinking for them.
Yeah.
Well, here's a big question. Probably a good way to kind of finish off the show, I suppose. Would you be willing to trade up to get Dean or another player?
No.
I wouldn't trade up, because
the
reason I wouldn't trade up is I'm more thinking about the business side. Like, I say, if we do trade up, we don't really have much of the. We would have to probably give up enough first round for next year, or add a player in as part of the deal.
And also, just because of the way the board is sitting and where we sit, especially for the first round anyway.
Yeah.
It's a nice place. It's a good place to be, because the way the players are going to be coming down that line.
Yeah, it's a good place to kind of evaluate how the teams are kind of. You could probably dictate how the teams are going later into the rounds, and you can probably make a better assessment. So I think we're like, even though 24 doesn't sound the most extravagant of all picks, but hey. You might get an absolute diamond in the rough, like I said.
Well,
you get more than that. The board will fall nicely to you. The board is going to fall nice.
I was listening to the draft show from Friday today, and they were saying 24 last year, Najee Harris, 24 the year before, Cesar Ruiz. You will get a first-round talent.
Yeah, but especially with the way it's all lining up at the moment with the prospects and everything else. It is the perfect place to be.
It is. But look, we do need to get out of here. Before we do, we'll pay the bills. So if one of you beats me to it, the guys over at Cowboys Experience. So for all your game day visits over to the US, there is a big upcoming event in 2023. Make sure you get on to Cowboys Experience and use the code, because what happens when you use the code, gentlemen?
You get free stuff.
Free. And the best things in life are free.
That is true. And speaking of free, on Thursday night, Mike will be along with Jeff Reinebold and the team. And Paul,
I'll be
tell us about your own news.
Oh yes, so I'm now part of the Blogging the Boys network, part of SB Nation, as you can see on the screen here. joined by the great and powerful Meg Murray. So we have our own show called The World's Team on Blogging the Boys. So be sure to go check it out. Available every Sunday on the Blogging the Boys network channels on Spotify and Apple Music.
And that is a show you do not want to miss out on. But it's a good night from me, and see you all on Thursday.
And a good night from me.
Stay safe.